There we go. You should be able to see our slide deck now. And we'll start. So welcome back, everybody from Coffee and Bagel. I hope you got the chance to connect with some of the ProLinkers and your colleagues during that time together. We will be randomly selecting one participant as a winner for a $50 gift card to Starbucks. The winner will be receiving an email from us in the next few minutes, so please be on the lookout for that. At the end of the day, we'll announce the coffee and bagel winners on the platform homepage, so you'll know who those winners are. The session that you've joined now is titled Why Adoption Matters, which will be presented by myself and Jim Paris, who's our sales engineer at ProLink Solutions. So Jim helps me. He works with me directly on, working with prospective clients, but also with our existing clients in helping to address like any kind of special project we might be doing for them, whether it's additional like a paid engagement where we're working with somebody, or it's something that we're just collaborating on. He helps me to document and align requirements and expectations with our professional services team and our product team. So Jim's really done a great job in keeping all of us aligned and on the same page through the different projects that we've worked on over the last couple of years since he's been with us. And through that process, I think the two of us together, but him as a newer employee of ProLink within the last 3 years, has had the opportunity to see the sort of evolution of some of our clients going through adopting new pieces of ProLink HFA and learning what those benefits are, seeing those end results, hearing the feedback. All of those things start to connect when you're involved on both the sales side and also the customer success side. It's not something where we make a sale and you go through your implementation. We don't hear about it afterwards. We're highly engaged with our clients throughout our relationship. So I'm looking forward to using this session to highlight a lot of the kind of areas of ProLink HFA that our users can take advantage of by kind of the end result. What the end benefits that you get in storing your data and making sure that you house your data in ProLink HFA. We'll go ahead and get into the agenda. So I'm going to briefly cover our customer success model and the areas of kind of the areas that we emphasize throughout the life cycle of our client's relationship with us. Then I'm going to pass it to Jim to cover a number of areas in ProLink HFA. This is more of a demo style presentation. I will warn you, this is not a training session. This is kind of an opportunity to share and provide business examples of functionality that is available in the core ProLink HFA product base. A couple of things that we're also working on that are enhancements to our core product offering, like the inspection app that you guys have heard and seen commercials on throughout this event. But we'll be covering that. Cross-department collaboration, financial and risk models, and then data exporting. So those are the areas we'll be focused on today and demoing for you. So going into customer success here, this is a slide that I often will use with our clients who are nearing the end, kind of at the very beginning, maybe when we're working with a new client on starting an implementation and we're beginning our kickoff of that implementation. We'll cover these points. And then certainly at the end of the implementation, when we make the transition from that project-based relationship into what we call customer success. And that is where our clients continue to work with us post go live, where they're actively using the system. So you can see up in green, we have our client implementation and onboarding process. So that is managed very much by our professional services team, which Ryan Kim, our Vice President of Professional Services, he heads that group, and he was the one who led the regulatory update panel yesterday. And we have a number of different roles within that group to support our clients through the implementation process, which you guys, many of you already know. Some of you who are logged in are about to start that process, right? But there's a lot of factors involved. through configuration, customizations that need to be made, and certainly data migration, and then training, right? And then once you go live, we get to kind of meet again, myself and our client representatives, to start more of a regular cadence of meetings, which we call monthly business reviews, or MBRs. And I check in with most of our clients on a monthly basis, really to just have a touch point to address any active projects, active tickets, high profile tickets that are of concern, and then kind of get a little bit of a glimpse into your roadmap and your priorities and your plans for where to go from here. Because as we all know, that go live is an incredible milestone, but it's kind of the beginning of the journey in a sense as well. And there's a lot of continued process improvements and adoption to be gained as we move forward. The factors that kind of play into our customer success model, which is 100% like built upon the concept of improving adoption, involves like that business partnership development or client relationship development. So being close together, forming a relationship where ProLink is considered an extension of your agency that you can lean on and work with and reach out to, and involve potentially, or at least keep us aware of your initiatives and the way that you're using our system, is incredibly helpful for us to better support our clients, and also for us to consider as we're approaching new enhancements and making improvements. We also have our customer support team that is managing kind of the real-time nitty-gritty of tickets, issues, like all of those things going through Zendesk and through our help center. And so that is always kind of working in the background. And we pride ourselves on good customer support. We really do try to meet your needs, be good, communicators with our clients, and find resolution that is appropriate, whether that be a workaround or getting a fix in as quickly as we can when an issue arrives. Process innovation and training. So this is something where we've spent a lot of time normalizing this, I would say, over the last couple of years with our clients. And ProLink, as many of you know, has been in the affordable housing industry for, I think we're like 23-ish years. Maybe I'm a little off by that. But what I've noticed is, as our clients are growing and kind of getting seasoned in ProLink HFA, so is ProLink. And as we continue on this journey with our clients, the things that we need to do to support our clients has evolved just as much as our clients have. So we have noticed over the years, while we might have clients who've been on our system for many years, there's process innovation, there's training that needs to be done 10 years in, even 5 years in, 3 years in, just because we have changed, right? We've all changed. We've changed our working. It's very different from 5 years ago, being so much more primarily remote. And we have a lot more like availability of think of the tools, AI, all these different things that are coming out and actually taking advantage of the data available to us. And people change. So staff changes, retirements happen. And so through all of those different things, we have a need, a kind of consistent need in our life cycle to reevaluate and provide support for process innovation and training. So, if you feel that kind of pressure happening in your organization, you feel like you might be like things are going smoothly, but they could be smoother kind of thing. It's natural for that to happen, even if a system's been there for a long time. And I certainly want to convey to our clients that there's always room for growth, no matter how long you've been with us. There's plenty of things that we could still help and kind of consider, even in the core product that you're using today, that might be relevant now and where it might not have been earlier. So The next thing I want to point out is our HFA user group and also kind of the NAMA XML standards group. So those things are really enhancements, I would say, to our customer success program. So I see those things as kind of, it's like the country club that surrounds our customer success program, where it really facilitates that collaboration and getting together with our peers to really dive into things that need to happen from a technology perspective or business needs that needs to be met. And then going finally to software adoption evaluation. So this is something that through the monthly business reviews, when we're talking about roadmap, that's part of the evaluation, the ongoing evaluation that we're able to like slowly kind of tick away at and get an understanding of. We also can pull reports on ProLink side of usage of every one of our agencies across every module in the system. So we have an understanding of what areas of ProLink HFA are highly utilized across our client base and which are not. And that's very helpful as well for us to have meaningful conversations with our clients about what their intentions are and areas that might have been goals to begin with but haven't been reached yet, which is really what we want to help support as we move forward. A couple other things when you think about adoption and how do you approach something like that? How do you continue to improve adoption? Two things that I think translate from the implementation over to customer success and regular usage of the system that are important to maintain. One is your executive sponsorship. So making sure that and executives, especially executive directors, can turn over the time that ProLink has been with your agency. It's important that they understand the value add, the reason why systems are in place, and they can encourage that organizational adoption and buy-in, that's a priority. So that is important and I think makes a big difference to the success of the organization and focus that you can have around that continued improvement. They will be involved in approvals of high level and agency-wide decisions that need to be made, and really just serve as those champions, which are kind of accompanied by what we call project champions during implementation. So those would be the people who are ensuring project activities are a priority. They're actively and visibly participating in projects. They're building that, kind of rallying the team together to get that project done during implementation. And then they are promoting and communicating the changes and impacts that the system has. That's all happening during implementation. But what happens as you go into customer success is usually the champions of the champions kind of bubble up out of the implementation. And those individuals continue to live on through customer success, continuing to be not necessarily a project champion anymore, but like a system champion for adoption. And so those are a lot of times the people who I'm meeting with on a monthly basis. And we're proactively looking for ways to support the organization through its evolution of growth over the years, right? Okay, so right before I hand it over to Jim to start our demos, these are kind of the self-explanatory. I know a lot of you can probably imagine these are the benefits, that you can experience when you do have strong adoption. To sum it all up together, one thing that Sean McKenna, our CEO and founder, I've heard him say every once in a while is, well, if there's no data in ProLink solutions, if there's no data in ProLink HFA, then it's not worth anything. It's not going to help you. There's nothing valuable about it, right? Keeping your data in the system, using what's available when it makes sense. Not everything will make sense for your agency, but really taking the time to explore that and ensure that you are using what is applicable to you. It can be incredibly valuable in the long run. And so I look forward to kind of walking through some of those net benefits with Jim, and please reach out to me or bubble up any areas through those who you know champion ProLink HFA within your own organization. Bubble those ideas and thoughts up through them so that we can better support you as we move forward here. Okay, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to, and I'm sorry, I didn't advance the slides that I was going through there. So here are the adoption kind of highlights that I was just speaking to. Jim, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to you.
Sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here. All right, is that showing up? Bree, do you see it?
Looks good.
Yes, yeah, we got it.
No gray boxes?
Nope.
Sorry.
Great. No worries, no worries. All right, so today I'm going to focus on showing you guys some things throughout the system, including data views, some things you can do in deals that kind of push data back and forth between portfolio properties to kind of help your different teams work together and share data. And then I'm going to show you some other cool tools that you can use once data is in there on the financial side, as well as the asset management side. And then I'm going to show you some things after that using smart docs, how you can pull data out of the system once it's in there, and then other exporting tools that we have like the HUD data export. A lot of these sessions you're going to be joining this week are mostly focused on how do I do things in the system. So I'm going to be going over data views here at the beginning, showing you more of a sense of why you should use them. Ben will be going over how to create these later on today. Other sessions this week are, how to use, how to use LIHTC compliance functionality, how to set up smart docs. I'm going to be focusing today on, why it's important from a business case perspective to use those. So I'm going to start out here with a few examples of some really powerful data views your agency can use that, of course, are dependent on adoption of the system and input of data in the system as you process deals and as you manage these properties and as you manage compliance. The first one I'm going to highlight for you guys today is going into this works in tax credit deals as well as dev deals, using data views with grouping and selecting columns of data that you want to see here. You can pretty quickly and easily have a data view for somebody maybe in management over the origination team to kind of manage your pipeline. I've been in sales for about 10 years. I haven't been in the same kind of industry as some of you guys for all of those 10 years, but every job that I've had where you're managing deals, pipeline reporting is very important. So you can run this data view, make sure that you guys have a good, healthy pipeline, see what's coming in, what's being processed today in terms of both dollars and units, and also where those properties are and what stage in the deal life cycle they're in.
Hey, Jim, very sorry to interrupt. Can you zoom in on your screen just a little bit, if that's possible?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I forget my monitor I've got a pretty large monitor, so it looks bigger to me than maybe some of you guys. How's this?
Okay, yeah, looks good. Thank you.
Great. Sorry about that, guys. But as you can see here, this gives you a really good sense of what's in your deal pipeline, both from a dollars perspective as well as a units perspective, and where these properties are, as well as what stage in the deal life cycle they're in. Next thing I'm going to kind of focus on here is tracking my allocation cycles. So as you process deals and as you kind of award these tax credits throughout the year, you want to keep track of how much you're allocating. How many of these tax credits have you already allocated to certain deals? You can do that pretty easily within within your utility here for monitoring tax credit cycles. So here I can filter out all of the deals that have been allocated 9% LITEX for the year, and it'll easily kind of tell me how many units do these cover, the allocated amount, and it'll show me the totals here. So as I have all this data in the system, as I'm processing these deals in ProLink HFA, I'm going to have the data I need to run this report and kind of keep an eye on my tax credit allocations for the year. Do a similar thing with funding. So if I go to my dev utilities and go to fiscal year allocation tracking, what I can do is I can have all my fiscal years set up here. I can filter by. I'm just going to look at 2015, for example, and I have all my different funding programs laid out for me for that year, what the budget is, what's been closed, card, reserved, and remaining, and then I have all the totals down here. So it really gives me a good idea of, what do I have to allocate, what have I already committed to, what's left, and a really good monitor for making sure I get it all out the door, but not more than I have out there. But again, this is all dependent on processing those deals in ProLink HFA so that data is recorded in the system and reflects on this view here. Next example I'm going to show you guys is going to be construction. So I covered origination, but now as you're in the construction process with some of these deals, you want to track the progress on construction. So I have my active construction deals here. I've got them grouped by status. So 10 to 25% complete, 25 to 50, 50 to 75, 75 to 90. There's options to add all kinds of columns to this. And when we have our data view building session later on today, you'll see how to do that. But I made this one pretty straightforward, just giving me a list of deals and where they're at in the construction process, who's assigned, and how many units are in all of these buildings or properties. Go over to draws. So here you can track all the money kind of going out the door and to what deal. Here I just kind of have a draw summary. It's grouped by deal. Again, I could probably filter this by deal stage or date or year. Another cool view I like to set up is I can set up approved dev draws that have not been paid out yet. So somebody in accounts payable can have this data view set up for them or sent to them by somebody else on the team. And it'll give you a pretty clear picture of, hey, all this money has been approved to go to this deal. I could even pull up like the name of who the money's supposed to go to. And it'll break down total hard costs or soft costs for those draws and really give you a clear picture of, hey, this stuff's been approved and needs to get paid out. I'm going to go over to some asset management type data views here. So my financial metrics data view, this is something that, if I'm an asset manager, I can pull this up and look at my properties that I'm managing. Or if I am like a director and I'm managing other asset managers and I want to have like a team meeting or a one-on-one with my different asset managers, I can run this report, this data view here, group it by asset manager, and kind of go through all the financial performances of each of those asset managers' properties. So you can see here, Jessica probably needs to have a conversation. Of course, this is fake data in the system, but if you see something like this at your HFA, you probably want to have a conversation with this person. And then you can see my financials for Kelly. She's doing pretty well. And you can pull in all types of financial metrics, and I'll show you how those financial metrics get generated within each property later on today too. Inspections. So I'm going to show you a couple inspections data views. And these can be grouped again by asset manager if you want, or you can just have a whole list of inspections that are not filtered really. But this one I filtered by bad inspections. So inspections that were not satisfactory, and I want to keep them on a watch list. So here I have, a bunch of completed inspections, and they're all unsatisfactory. Really quick and clean way to look at the portfolio as a whole and see any properties that were performing poorly recently on any inspections. One thing I will highlight here, I know some of you guys have been coming to our webinars and asking us for information about our upcoming Inspire app. Those of you who move forward with the Inspire app will have access to data views where you can run reports on that data that you input through that Inspire app. So that Inspire app will allow you to conduct those inspections, and then that data will be pushed into ProLink HFA database. And now you can run reports on things like, I can go through each of my inspectable areas and it'll show you kind of what was scheduled, what was completed. I like this one, my inspection findings. So this will pull up any, I can filter this by any findings that I've had that were not satisfactory. Yeah, so I have a life-threatening view, and it'll show me any of the results and anything that might need follow-up across the entire portfolio. I can do a similar thing with my LIHTC compliance exceptions. So let's say I know I have a few properties that were doing poorly with their compliance reviews. Here I can kind of run a global view on anybody that's suffering and what was going on. So I have my properties grouped and it'll show me all of the exceptions that happened when I ran compliance on those properties. Pretty clean way to kind of run through everything on a property by property basis. Again, I could filter this by asset manager as well. So let's say I'm managing a team of asset managers and I want to go through all the exceptions that their properties have experienced and have a conversation about, how do we work with those properties to fix these issues. The next couple reports or data views here, before I go into the next section, these are going to be more focused on, I like to say, your agency can kind of use this data to brag about what you're doing for the community and for your state and for maybe different counties, cities, towns, congressional districts that you might be serving with some of the properties that you're either managing or processing and putting in service soon. So one, I'm going to go to my portfolio properties and properties. So here I have, let's say I want to give some information on any properties that are designated to serve the elderly population. And I want to break it down by which congressional districts all these properties are in. This is a really specific report. You can make it more broad. You can take out the elderly designation filter and just kind of maybe meet with, maybe there's a congressman asking your executive director, hey, what are you doing for my district? You can easily kind of break this out and show, hey, congressman, in District 11, I've got over 2,000 units that are available for elderly people within your district. So really good way for you to kind of run this data and for PR purposes kind of brag to the community, hey, here's what we're doing to serve everybody. Or if you're meeting with specific people, maybe community leaders in certain districts or cities or counties, you can use this data to kind of cut and slice things to show them what you're doing in their specific community. You can do this from a pipeline level as well. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to go to dev deals. I'm going to go to dev deal properties actually. So this I have a double grouping on. So I've grouped it by year, and then I've also grouped it by county. So I can go in, in any given year, I can say, hey, in 2012, we processed, these 3 deals for your county, constituting, 317 units. I can go to my current year as well if I want to and say, hey, listen, we're working on, 1 deal for now in your county, but as I add more to my pipeline, I can start reporting on, hey, I've got a few hundred units that I'm working on closing and placing in service in your county or your city or your zip code or your congressional districts. Again, these 2 reports, this one and the last one, I think are just really good ways for the HFA to kind of sell themselves to the community or any leaders and say, hey, we're doing good things in your community, and here's exactly what we're doing. Right, so that's like data views. So hopefully that gives you a good sense of, why is this data in the system? The reason is you can run all these reports to help you get, pretty useful intelligence on what's going on within your pipeline as well as within your portfolio. The next section, I'm going to focus on how folks on the origination side of things and folks on the asset management and compliance side of things can work together a little bit better by using one common system in ProLink HFA. And there are ways to set things up to where it minimizes your need for having to go back and forth a lot and asking, hey, let's say you're an asset manager and there's data that was probably collected in the origination process that you need for asset management purposes. It will minimize your need to have to go back and forth with small questions like that to that other team, really breaking down that silo and giving you visibility into the data that they have collected before things were placed in service and passed over to you. Whenever I create a new dev deal or tax credit deal, I'm just going to go to dev activities and just kind of go through what it would look like when I create a new deal. So if I go in and I try to create like another deal, related to Garden Court, I can go in and just fill out my mandatory fields here. 2024, say, do a rehab on this. And then what it's going to do is it's going to search, one, to make sure I'm not creating a duplicate deal here, but it's also going to search to see if there's a portfolio property that I can associate with this deal. And what'll happen is, either way, there will be a portfolio property associated with the deal, either an existing one or the system will automatically create a new one if there's not one already in the system for this specific property or for this specific deal. So then what I can do is either when I'm in the deal or when I'm in the property, it'll show me that association. So I'll go into my old Garden Court deal here and show you that the deal is going to be linked to a portfolio property. So it's very easy for each team to kind of go back to the records that the prior team input as they either process the deal or as they're going through asset management. So I can see my portfolio properties here from the deal perspective. And if I go into that portfolio property, you can see that it gets tied back to the development deal and other deals that are associated with this property as well. So really easy access for mainly people in asset management to go back and look at what happened prior to this being placed in service. Another cool thing that I can do here is, let's say in my portfolio property, let's say I suspect that data has been updated on the deal side and is not reflecting in the portfolio property yet. It's really easy for me to make sure that the portfolio property is populated with all of the data input into the deal record. So I can go ahead and do a search here. I'm going to go 102 South Palm Avenue. Let's say I'm going to click on the dev deal. I want to make sure all of the data, or make sure that the data from the dev deal is populated in the property of 102 South Palm Avenue in portfolio properties. So I can go here and I can kind of look at a comparison of what the data says in each and make sure that it all gets carried over. So you can see a lot of stuff here. It's already populated. I noticed this isn't, so I can click on this and make sure it gets pulled over. I can go to locations too and pull some data related to that. And if I click update portfolio, it'll go ahead and update the portfolio property with the data from the deal. Next thing I'm going to show you guys is how to go back into that deal. If I go into this deal and I go into portfolio property, I can do it kind of the reverse way here. If I go ahead and select the portfolio property and I hit copy, it'll do the same thing and it'll copy certain information over from the portfolio property into the deal. So again, just a lot of tools to really ease the transfer of information between both teams. Next section I'm going to go to here is going to be financials and risk models. So there's a lot of financial analytics that you can do within a portfolio property once financials are input into the portfolio property. So I'm going to go to Garden Court Apartments. And I'm going to go to standardized financials. And here I can kind of track my requirements for collecting financials. So if I require monthly or quarterly, I can track whether or not I do that here, and then track whether or not I've received it, if it's past due, if it's been approved, rejected, or revised. And once all that gets imported, it'll show on the screen under my P&L and balance sheet tabs, as well as cash flow tabs if I'm collecting that as well. But really, the main thing that I want to show you today is once you input all of those financials, you can easily run these financial analytics on this specific property. And then once you do this, you can also run those data views that I showed you earlier on in this presentation. So I'm just going to do some kind of core metrics here, but you can kind of get really fancy if you want to really get detailed about like level 2 and level 3 stuff. You can do that too. If you want to add trailing periods, you can do that too. But I'm just going to I'm going to view analytics for 2021 here. And now using the financial information that was input into this property in 2021, I can run metrics like net NOI, replacement reserve deposits, debt service coverage ratios, economic occupancies, and physical occupancies. And again, all that stuff can be pulled into data views from a reporting perspective on a portfolio-wide basis. Last thing I'm going to show you here on this section is going to be risk models. And risk models allows you to kind of run an analysis on each property from a holistic standpoint. So I can run a risk assessment on this property based off of multiple factors related to this property. And I'll show you actually how you can set that up and what risk elements you can add to this risk assessment. Go to risk assessment settings. And this shows me, okay, so I can set up kind of like a point system. So if a property gets a certain amount of points, then I'm going to have it at watch or at risk. Or if it's below a certain number of points, it's acceptable. So I'm really going to be adding points to things that are bad, things that I don't want to see. And I can do that with annual financials. So, if my DCR is bad, I can add certain points. If it's even worse, I can add more points. Operating expenses, net operating income, all of this stuff that gets recorded as you use the standardized financials can be used to impact this risk assessment. Same thing with inspections. So our overall inspection results can be assigned point values. But again, as some of you guys start taking advantage of our Nspire app, the results of the Nspire inspections can be used as elements in this risk assessment as well. Loan reserve, compliance audits, compliance reviews, all of this stuff can be used to impact that overall risk assessment. So now you're going to have the ability to take a look at everything involved in managing a certain property and give it a holistic score of, hey, how is this property really doing from a holistic standpoint? And once I set all this stuff up and I have all of that data input into the property record, I can run a risk assessment for that property. So I'm going to go back to Garden Court, go to my risk assessments. I'm going to look at this one I ran. I'm going to see, it's at risk, but I'm going to look at why. So you see my main screen with results here. It's going to show me my points, but the system generated criteria is going to tell me kind of like why I have the points that I have based on the rules that I've set up. So because I have all these rules set up, I can see, okay, I had some specific inspection results that added some points. I had some compliance audit issues that added some points. You get it. And then after I do all of that, again, I have the option to look at all of this from a portfolio-wide perspective. As an asset manager or as maybe a director working with those asset managers to kind of see, hey, what's really going on across the entire portfolio from a risk standpoint. So I can go in and what I've done here is I've grouped this by property owner. So if there are certain property owners that own multiple properties, it'll show all risk assessments over all of those properties. And as you can see, some of these have pretty high scores that are at risk. Some are good, they're doing well, they have acceptable scores here. So risk assessments are a really good way to take all the data that you put into a certain portfolio property and look at it holistically and then kind of compare the portfolio or compare the property against the entire portfolio. And my last section here is going to be on data extraction. So I'm showing you some data views, but there are a few other tools that you can use to pull data out of the system. One really important thing I'd like to show you guys is the HUD export utility. So by using compliance in ProLink HFA, I'm going to have access to this HUD export utility that'll make the HUD reporting process a lot easier on my end. But again, you have to make sure you're using compliance in ProLink HFA, so all the data is in here for you to do that. There's a few files that can be generated while you do this. So there's a missing data file. So this allows you to kind of take a look at, hey, is there any data that is missing from my report? And I can go back in and fill in the blanks before I submit things over to HUD. So here I can see there's some errors like, hey, tenant events have not been submitted. There's missing requirements from the compliance review, and I can go ahead, I can fix all those things before I actually export data and send it over to HUD. Next file that I have access to here is my project XML data. This is going to be kind of all the XML data on all those active projects. So this is all my data here on each of these active projects and buildings. And then there's a no longer monitored XML. So any properties that will no longer be monitored because they have reached their period, you can pull that XML file here as well. The last couple things I'm going to show you are related to Smart Docs. So I know we went over Smart Docs the other day. Smart Docs is a really powerful tool. It's used a little bit more for sending data into ProLink HFA from things like developer applications, but it's also pretty powerful in its ability to pull data out of the system. So I do have a couple examples here. So there was a question that came in through chat yesterday on like being able to use Smart Docs for Microsoft Word, which you can do. And I think that really the biggest and primary example of that is generating letters based on data that's in the system. Here I kind of have like a fake, it's like a Loriform. It's just I just kind of mapped the title page of it, but you can go through and you can get really fancy and really detailed with setting up this document to fill it out completely using various data points within that deal. But all I really need to do is log in. And then I will go ahead and I will get data from the system. I will look up, I'm going to use my Garden Court deal. And it'll pull in the proper data points from that deal. And then I do have an example of an underwriting model as well. So if I want to pull data out of the system into an Excel file for certain financial modeling purposes like underwriting, I can do that too. I'm working on Garden Court here now. And once I click that get button, I have all the numbers here and details here for my underwriting model here in Microsoft Excel. So if I want to do some really fancy financial analysis on a specific deal outside of the system in Excel, it's really easy to set that up using Smart Docs Get. But of course, for both of those scenarios, the system needs to be properly adopted, properly used, and have the data in there necessary to pull into all of these things. That's it for my presentation. I think we have about 5 minutes left for you to wrap it up, Bree, so I'll pass it off to you.
Great, thank you. Coffee and bagel will take place every break. So I think we have one more after this. And during each break, we will pick that winner for our Starbucks gift card for $50. So enjoy your break now. Again, hit that discussions link under community at the top, and you will be brought to the screen to enter into Coffee and Bagel. I'll see you there. Thank you guys.